Today we are doing multiples of unit fractions, lesson 7-3, Math Journal 234. So when we say unit fractions, remember a unit fraction is any fraction where the numerator is a 1. We aren't adding, like when we are adding unit fractions, we're adding 1/4 plus 1/4. We're not adding 1/4 plus 2/4 or anything like that. Our numerators are all ones, okay? That's important to know because that's what a unit fraction is. Now, this lesson really will not be that hard, especially at the beginning. And if you start to get confused, just take a second, rewind the video, and look at it again, okay? So it says write an equation, an addition equation and a multiplication equation to describe each picture. So first off, they gave us a picture of two circle charts, okay? So first off, what is our circle divided into? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's out of 8s, right? So we have a unit fraction of 1/8. Plus another 1/8 because we have 2. So to add that, we have 1/8 plus 1/8, and that equals 2/8. Now, if we're doing a multiplication equation, remember it has to be by the unit fraction of 1/8. And how many times do we have 1/8? We have it twice. So we just have 2 times 1/8. And again, that equals 2/8. We keep our denominator the same, multiply the whole number by the numerator, and we get 2. Okay? What is the second multiple of 8? Or of 1/8? Again, if we have 2 multiples of 1/8, what would that be? So saying what is the second multiple is really just another way of saying what is 2 times 1/8, which we just said was 2/8. Okay? Now we have another picture to represent our second problem. This is still a picture, it's just shown in a line segment, okay? So the fraction we are looking at, the unit fraction, is 1/5. And we're seeing how many times they added it. They added 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I got that from counting the amount of intervals that they went. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So for my addition equation, I'm going to add 1/5 6 times. All right, and it even gives us our answer right here and says that that is 6/5. Okay. Now, if I'm doing a multiplication equation with a unit fraction, that means, again, we went 6 intervals times 1/5. So 6 intervals of 1/5, and that still equals 6/5. Okay. For this one, I'm not so worried about taking it into a proper fraction or a mixed number, okay? So again, it says what is the 6th multiple of 1/5, and that's 6/5. Okay? Now, this next part asks you to do something different. It says draw a picture to represent the equations. So you can do it a couple different ways. We can do a line segment, or we can even do a picture. I'm going to do a picture, and instead of circles, I'm going to do rectangles. Okay? And I'm going to divide it into 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so we added 1 6. And then I need to do it separate pictures because if I don't, it's not unit fractions. So I can't just put all my 6s, all my 6 onto that. So I have 1 6 plus 1 6 plus 1/6. Okay, so I couldn't just fill in 3 of my squares, or rectangles, I'm sorry, on my first one, because if I did that, those wouldn't be unit fractions. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing for our next part. And I'm actually going to take a second. You draw your picture and click back on, and I'm going to take a second and draw my picture. And I'm going to do a line segment. So why don't you try to make a line segment and then compare yours to mine when you click back onto our video. Okay, so here is my drawing. So I made a line segment of tenths. My bottom numbers are 1/10, 2/10, 3/10, 4/10, 5/10, 6/10, 7/10, 8/10, 9/10, 10/10. But then when I went my intervals, I did 1/10 each time. I know it's a little hard to read because it's kind of a smaller area, but I did intervals of 1/10 because I'm adding unit fractions, okay? So that's why my fractions up top are in unit fractions of just 1/10. Now look at number 5. It says use a unit fraction to write an equation, an addition equation, and an equivalent multiplication equation. So this, and then they want you to draw a picture. This is going to be different for each student. I'm going to do an example, and I want you to do a different one. So when I write my equation, if I say I'm doing 1/4 plus 1/4 plus 1/4 equals 3/4, I need to make this into an equivalent multiplication fraction. So I did it 3 times, so that's 3 times 1/4 equals 3/4. This made it equivalent. It was the same representation here. And just to draw my picture, again, I want yours to be different than mine. Okay? So to draw my picture, I had 3 circles and I filled in 1/4 of each of my circles. Okay? Now this next part, so I want you to take a second and I want you to do your own and then click back on the video and continue on. This next part is going to be a little trickier because they're going to want you to think a little different than what we just thought. It says write the fraction as multiples of unit fractions. Make sure they're of unit fractions and use a visual fraction model to help you. So if you need to draw it, that's fine. So if we are doing unit fractions, we know our denominator is a 12th for this first one because our denominator stays the same. A unit fraction, the numerator has to be a 1. So there is our unit fraction right there, 1/12. And I put it over here because I always like to put my whole number first. So if I'm doing a whole number and I get 4, and I multiplied something by 1 to get 4, we know that that's a 4. So whatever our numerator is and our answer is going to be what our whole number is. Which means for letter B, again, our denominator is going to be a 10 because our denominator in our answer is a 10. And to make it a unit fraction, a 1 has to be the numerator. And whatever our numerator is over here is what our whole is here because we're multiplying by 1. And you can always check your answer. 8 times 1 is 8, and our denominator stays the same, and it's 10. Okay? So for here, they put our answer on this side. We know our denominator is a 5th, and a unit fraction has a 1 as a numerator. And our numerator in our answer is 7, meaning our whole is a 7. Now, again, denominator stays the same as an 8. Unit fraction means that our numerator is a 1. And whatever our numerator is here is what our answer is as our whole. Okay? So it says complete with a unit fraction. So what we're putting here is our unit fraction. Remember, whatever a unit fraction is, it has to be a 1 as the numerator. So really you're just looking to see what your denominator is and carrying it over. Okay? Same over here. A 1 is the numerator. Whatever your denominator is, you carry it over. because it says 7/8 is a multiple of the unit fraction 1/8. 4/8 is the fourth multiple of the unit fraction 1/5. Now, 10/2 is a multiple of the unit fraction 1/2. Numerator has to be a 1, denominator stays the same. 6/4 is the sixth multiple of the unit fraction. Numerator has to be a 1, denominator stays the same, of a fourth, not a sixth. That was my bad. So these are all different ways to say the same thing. You're just finding the unit fraction based on the answer. Now, for each number story, write a multiplication number model or equation with an unknown to represent the problem, then solve it. So make sure you put an unknown in your equation. Jessica made 3 pitchers of lemonade. Each pitcher holds 1/4 of a gallon. How many gallons of lemonade did she make? So she made 3 pitchers, that's our whole number, and we're multiplying it by 1/4 because it's a multiplication. And I'm going to put G as my unknown for gallons. Now again, we know how to do this. You keep your denominator the same. You multiply your whole number by your numerator and get your new numerator. So your answer is 3/4 of a gallon. Now, I'm not making you do the try this because I want you to do Math Masters and Home Links still for today. So get in your envelope and get out Math Masters, page 265, lesson 7-3. It says finding multiples of unit fractions. So you are using the pictures to solve these, to write out the equations, okay? You're looking and seeing what your unit fraction would be. If you're going by eighths here, that means each time you went by 1/8. So that means my unit fraction is just 1/8. They even give you your answer in your picture, which is 5/8. Okay? So you're just doing that for 2 through 6 for Math Masters. Now look at your home links. This is what we did in our math journals. Okay? Nothing to be surprised about. Look back at the video if you need to. Look back at the work you just did and make sure you do your adding and subtracting of fractions in the bottom. So this is Home Links 195, lesson 7-3 as well. Okay? So you need to turn in your journal page, your Math Masters, and your Home Links page. Okay? Again, this is not going to be too difficult, I don't think, and I think that a lot of you will probably zoom through it once you get the process in your head of what it's asking you to do. So just keep trying. Remember to rewind if you need to, pause if you need to, and just see what you can do. All right, have a good day, guys.